Okay, so we're now into part three of Race and Language, an essay by Edward Augustus Freeman. And at this point, I'm not even going to say that I'm going to look up when it was published because I just keep forgetting to do that before I press record. Sometime in the 1800s, mid to late. I think that this will probably be the last session report in regards to this essay. I don't know that there's a lot more to mine, both for my purposes and for yours if you're watching this. Partly because I'm starting to get a little uncomfortable with where it might be headed. We're getting into some zones dealing with phrenology and like skull sizes and things like that, which I'm not super knowledgeable on, but I know that there's a lot of baggage with that sort of science, and some would even put science in quotes there. That doesn't mean that I ought to run away from it, and that's not what I'm going to do. I may well continue to read this essay, I just don't know how much more I'm going to keep documenting reading this. I also don't know that I'm gaining a ton from it. I can understand why Charles Eliot and, Mr. Williams maybe selected this at the time. It was the early 1900s, so this was a bit more relevant in the scientific community, but especially now, I just don't know what this is going to benefit me, how this is going to benefit me as a reader. Obviously, I do think that there's a place for older scientific documentation, even to the degree that it's not relevant anymore, that it's been surpassed. But I think that would have to do with it if it's well written, so it's just a joy to read, apart from topic. And also B, if the topic felt like it was building towards something that would be developed later, and I don't know what connections this really has to thought as it exists nowadays, in terms of race and language. But I digress. I will spare you more explanation than that, but I will say we got into this part here, and the main thrust of this segment, I say segment, it's all one essay, but this segment meaning this section of what I just read, um, him doubling down on his assertion that race and language are entirely unrelated, that there are so many examples of a person assimilating into another language and yet still being, originating from another geographic area, another ethnicity. Thinking about, I mean, even people migrating to the United States, especially um, Greek, Italian, Irish, all different languages and cultures, and them assimilating into American culture and now using English. But many would maintain that they're still not of a certain Caucasian race or whatever what have you. Um, and that all seems pretty clear cut and self explanatory. I mean, I don't know. That's really it here. That's the main thrust. He tends to repeat himself a lot. I think part of that is because this is building a case, and at the time, this case may have been more of a hot button topic or more breaking, but obviously now it seems rather obvious and trite. Um, so, to the degree that he keeps building this thesis and restating his point in slightly different ways, it just kind of wears on me as a reader. So, I don't know if I'm going to continue with this. I'm going to keep going with the reading, with the next reading. I also think that I might change how I approach these videos. First of all, the 15 minutes of reading is a minimum. And I think the idea is hopefully that you're into the topic, that you're into what you're reading, and so you go on to read further on any given day. And if I do that, if I do end up doing that, which I imagine I will with some of these other works because I'll be really interested in them, 5 minutes is going to just be way too short for me to unpack some of that stuff a lot of the time. So I don't know if the 5 minute limit makes a whole lot of sense. It only made sense if I was doing only around 15 minutes of reading, which is what I've been doing with this essay because it's not exactly riveting material. Which is another thing. Like, if I kept reading in 15-minute increments, this series is going to go on. I mean, it's already going to go on for several years, I imagine, but it would go on for. I would die. I think I'd die before I'd even get through most of these readings. So, um, yeah, I think we're going to be done with this essay. I might continue to read it. I might have more thoughts that I give in another section of a video, but I think I'll be done covering it for this series on my channel. So, that's that.